Hello YouTube! In this video we're gonna talk about some of the most famous people who did terrible things for good reasons, or you can say to achieve good in the long run. Let us start from Edward Jenner. Edward Jenner is known for doing one of the best things anyone has ever done. He's the guy who invented the smallpox vaccine that's saving millions of lives. How he got there though is another matter. When Jenner came up with his breakthrough theory, that is, scraping pus from a cowpox wound into an incision in human skin to make that person immune to smallpox, he did not experiment it on himself. Rather, Jenner trialed his concept on an 8-year-old boy. Remember that if this had gone wrong, he probably would have given the kid smallpox and likely killed him, especially as the second part of his experiment involved exposing the kid to the smallpox virus to prove that he was now vaccinated. Still, this wasn't enough. To make absolutely sure he was going down in history as either a hero or the evilest villain, Jenner repeated his experiment on dozens of other children, including an 11-month-old baby. Luckily, they were a success. The first smallpox vaccine worked. That's why we now know Jenner as a medical hero, and not just some jerk who gave a bunch of random kids smallpox. Che Guevara, the bearded socialist revolutionary from Argentina, is a modern icon. Leftist college students still wear his face emblazoned on their t-shirts. In Latin America, poor and populist movements take courage from his stances. He showed Latin America's poor that they did not need to accept their lot, and he helped overthrow Cuba's brutal dictator Batista, a mafia-connected monster who happily bombed entire towns that disagreed with him into dust. Unfortunately, the guy Che Guevara threw his lot in with while getting rid of Batista was Fidel Castro. Although Castro's revolution drastically improved the life standards of Cuba's poor, Cuba's free healthcare is often called the best in the world, the path there involved a whole lot of bloodshed. Che himself became an executioner, offing thousands of people considered enemies of Castro. While some were undoubtedly corrupt Batista-era guards, most of them were just ordinary Cubans who got swept up in a revolution. The life of the average Cuban may have improved in the post-Batista era, but thanks to Che, plenty of others did not live long enough to see those improvements. Next is Winston Churchill. The Bengal famine of 1943 is one of the worst natural disasters in a century full of them. What makes it really bad is that it was largely preventable. When people started starving to death, the British Empire had enough ships to begin sending in supplies to the region. Until, that is, Churchill requisitioned the ships for the war effort. At the time, the UK was still largely cut off from the rest of the world by Hitler's forces. Add to that, all the hungry soldiers needed to push into European territory and take out Nazis Germany, and you can see why Churchill thought he needed those ships. His plan worked out. Britain remained supplied despite Hitler's best efforts to starve the UK into submission. Unfortunately, Winston did not think through the consequences. By diverting the ships from Bengal, Churchill badly exacerbated the famine. It is thought around 1 million Indians died as a direct result of his intervention. The fact that it also allowed Britain to hold out against Hitler's Germany was probably cold comfort to survivors. Neville Chamberlain, who served as Prime Minister of the United Kingdom from May 1937 to May 1940. Although he's remembered today as a weak bungler, Neville Chamberlain was pretty shrewd. He was also terrifyingly pragmatic. When Hitler rolled into Czechoslovakia in 1938, Chamberlain opted for appeasement instead of confrontation. While this trashed his reputation, it may have saved Britain itself from extinction. At that time, the UK was completely unprepared for war. Allies like Canada, Australia, and America weren't interested in backing up the weak British forces, while Germany could count on Italy, Japan, at that time Russia as well. So rather than do the moral thing and speak out, Chamberlain used appeasement as a cover to quickly build up Britain's armed forces. In doing so, he sacrificed Czechoslovakia to the Nazis, and particularly Czech Jews to the Holocaust, but ensured Britain did not enter the fray until it had a chance of winning. As a result, when World War II kicked off, Britain was just about able to hold off Hitler until the USA and Russia got involved. It was a hideous policy, but it probably saved Britain from becoming a Nazi puppet state in the long run.